It is my privilege to introduce Carly Cochran to share her job search story, and it was kind of a short story, so it's all you.
Awesome. Thank you. I am really bad at speaking publicly, so if there's any questions, please feel free to jump in. Um, so kind of like Steve mentioned before the call had started, I had been working at Maverick. I started back in 2022, shortly after I had given birth to my son. There was a position that opened up, and it was just the right fit, right time. And so I got the job pretty quickly, and it was honestly one of the best jobs I've ever had. I loved every second of it. It was super fun. I was an operations coordinator, so I helped manage their store directory. I helped plan their big leadership summit they do every year. And then at the time, I was doing district meetings, regional meetings, meeting notes, managing the uniform program, just kind of a catch all 22, whatever they needed in the operations department. With Before I hit a year mark with Maverick, they decided to acquire Come and Go. Um, at the time, it was very exciting and also very nerve wracking. They did two layoffs before they did this last one recently, a month ago. Um, and within that time, my job kind of changed drastically. They had two different people that managed the same things that I did. So that would look good normally, but they obviously decided to divvy out those roles to other people. So my job became quickly redundant. And so here I am on the receiving end of the third layoff, which has not been fun, but we're making the most of it. Um, Towards this last year, I had some struggles with the change, and my supervisor had decided to put me on a PIP, which is a performance improvement plan. And if you look at the research online, about 85% of people do not make it past the PIP. Either they quit, they fail it, others, things like that. I am proud to say that I didn't. I passed it and I beat it. And because of that, I think it helped me when I did get this layoff. Because one of the things that I was working on was business communication and the expectations of others. And so when I got the layoff news, it was pretty hard just because this is a company that my family works at. My dad's on the board of directors, my siblings are in accounting. Like, we joked that one day our family would take over the business. But uh, obviously, that's not the case. And we would never actually do that. But it was still pretty hard. And I think the news really shook a lot of the people that worked at Maverick because someone they did lay off was family. So it kind of destroyed that family culture that they had been building up. Um, it also kind of sucked because I was planning that leadership summit and they laid me off a month before it happened. So the very event that I had been spending all year planning, I didn't even get to attend. So it was a rough couple of weeks, but I had been reading a book at the time that I got laid off called The Happiness Advantage. And as I'm sure some might think it's a little kooky, but I really appreciated the concepts in it and that it talked about positive psychology and how to reframe the reality you're in, kind of a thing. And so, one of the things I first started doing was writing down positive things that were happening every day. And then I started to try and reframe the negative thoughts I was having. So, one of the thoughts was, how could they do this to me? And it was like, you know what? It's just business. It doesn't really matter. And I had already been working on building up my LinkedIn resume, building my resume out so that I could apply for other jobs because I was getting a little tired of the role I was in. I felt like it was time to grow and move on. I tried to rethink like how Summit was going. It was hard because there was a lot of recognition on LinkedIn posts for the event, but I wasn't tagged in those. And while that's probably an ego thing, I had to sit there and reframe it as I'm glad I got most of it taken care of so they didn't have to stress about it. And it was a successful event. And just trying to reframe a lot of the mindsets with it. And then one of the other things that it had talked about, but I had also read in some other books, was setting positive goals for the universe to manifest, which sounds, again, kooky, but it worked apparently. Stacy talked about it a lot last week where the universe has something in plan for us. And so I made the ambitious goal that I would try and get a job by April 1st. If not, then May 1st would be my next goal. And so I took the first week after I got laid off because I am very much I don't deal with stress very well or handling grief. And so I plowed into learning AI and job searching because I knew that AI was going to give me the advantage I needed. And so I was using ChatGPT for a couple of days, looking at, okay, what websites are really good and renowned for networking or for finding jobs that may not be posted on LinkedIn and Indeed, because those are obviously the top two. It gave me a few websites. It even gave me a few websites that are AI based, where if you find a job and you want to rebuild your resume to match that job description, it will do that for you and produce a cover letter. It's called earnbetter.com. I found that as super helpful resource, at least when it came to applying and making sure that my resume could fit the jobs descriptions. I also looked at various job search sites. There's builtin.com. There's obviously ZipRecruiter. I can't remember the specific job search site that I found the position I just got, but I know it wasn't on LinkedIn. And so I'm very thankful for that, that I decided to use AI to help me advance my search. The only mentality I have around that is it is what you make of it. So AI can be detrimental or it can be a benefit if you think about the right prompts for it and it can be helpful. And so I kept to that mindset and I obviously made sure to ask it questions. AI was the first one to tell me I was getting laid off. So we know that it's useful. It can read the cues and it knows histories and stuff. So um, the job that I was lucky enough to get, it's from Haggerty. It's a classic car insurance. I can't, like I said, remember what job search board I found it on, but I know it wasn't LinkedIn because it's not on that search history. But they responded within, I think, a couple days, if not the next day. Um, and it was a pretty quick interviewing process. They had recently opened up a position where they needed someone to help coordinate their ServiceNow portal when it came to seeing like the risk management for third party contracts that were coming in, someone to kind of just keep an eye out and flag things as they came up. And then the other part of it was coordinating travel and getting hotel contracts in place, which I have all the experience in. Um, got to meet the recruiter and I got super personal with her. We connected really easily. And then I was able to schedule a second interview pretty quickly. I think that's the time that I met Steve the first time. And so I had warned Steve, I was like, I have some interviews going on, but we'll see what happens. The interview went really, really great. I had remember reading on LinkedIn at one point asking like more in-depth questions while doing interviews. So one of the questions I had asked them was, what are some examples of culture that you can share with me? What are some frustrations your department is experiencing that you're working actively to fix? What are some accomplishments that you guys have within the last year? Just kind of trying to get a gauge of asking the right questions to make them think that I think deeper than that so that I would be a really good fit for the role. It obviously led to a third interview, which happened this last Friday. So just a few days ago. And as I was talking to their VP of procurement, who is over this role, I was asking some of those questions and trying to get a little more personal, like what are things you do to help influence the culture? Um, Tell me what your goals are for the department for this year, so that if I were to get this job, I know how to aim myself in accomplishing the things you're asking me to, and things like that. And all she said was at the end of the interview, like, I'm going to reach out to these people. You'll hear someone for Monday. Like, just kind of gave the generic response of, like, well, you'll find out. Not even an hour later, I got a call from the recruiter saying that I had got the position and that she was super excited and knew I was the top candidate. So I was pretty stoked about that. The position's fully remote. It pays a little bit more than what I was making before. Steve, I did try to negotiate the price, but apparently there was no wiggle room. So there is a no in there, but it was at least a good thing to ask. And so, and she didn't take it wrong or anyway. She just was like, no, we can't. And I was like, okay, I still like the job. I still want it. So I start on the 5th. And so I got 2 weeks now to prep myself and getting back on a schedule. I as I was thinking about talking today to all of you and stuff like that and sharing my story, I was like, I don't know what they would want to hear. Um, but I think if there's any advice, it's one, the mindset, reframing things as much as you can, because it's rough when you're applying for jobs day in and day out and you don't hear back for weeks on end sometimes. And if you do hear back, it's usually a sorry, we've moved in a different direction. And so that's really discouraging, especially since it's happening in real time. Obviously, we could sit here and look back, and I was only unemployed for what, 5 to 7 weeks, but that still felt like an eternity with all the applying and trying to get a job. I have a little one, like I mentioned, and so I had to try and find something that worked with our schedule, with taking care of him, with making sure his needs were met. And so it was pertinent to be in the right mindset for that. And then to go along with that, one of the other things I did at the beginning of my job search when I set that goal for, okay, I'm going to get a job by April 1st or I'm going to get a job by May 1st, was I set out the parameters of what I wanted for my job. I knew I needed something remote because my kid's going to start preschool soon and he goes to a daycare in a different city. So I got to do some traveling. I knew that I wanted to make a certain amount of money because I was worth that much and I had put in the years of experience needed to get that. And then I put in just like some random, like, it would be nice if I could get like a really good medical benefits, or they have to have paid parental leave for if I were to decide to have another kid, things like that. So I did set some parameters of, okay, I need to have non negotiables for my future job. And then I made sure that I was in the mindset of there's going to be a job out there. There's probably multiple jobs out there for me that fit this parameter. It's just a matter of finding it. And if they don't take me, it's not me. It's there's so many other people that had that parameter or those that fit that skill. And they just took what they felt was best and not taking it personally. I had done one other interview shortly after I'd gotten laid off and I didn't get that job, but I'm glad I didn't because it was an on site job and I would not have been able to support my family that way. And it didn't make the money that I needed either. And I had warned them about that, which I know is a no no in interviewing, but I also told them like I wouldn't take it personally if they didn't take me. Um, and then I think the last thing I did to kind of stay up on everything was keeping a schedule. And I'm not talking like any heavy schedule because obviously that can burn you out pretty quickly, especially with all the emotions you're dealing with not working and trying to find something and it affecting your ego of like, am I not good enough? Things like that. But truthfully, like keeping a schedule helps. So every day I would read a chapter of a book, I would apply to 4 to 5 jobs, and then I would try and do something for myself. So whether that was getting outside and going for a walk, running an errand, having an appointment, getting out of the house and being social, because it can be very lonely sitting at home all day. So those were some of the things that helped me with my job search. So I hope maybe there was something in there that could have helped one of you guys. I don't know. So good luck. It sucks. I'm sorry.
Well, for someone who says they're not a good public speaker, I think you did it great. Round of applause. As is tradition here, we have people ask you questions or wish you well or both. And I'm going to put lady to lady. So first up is Carrie.
Unmute. Sorry. I agree with you, Steve. She did a great job with public speaking. I don't know what you're talking about. You did great.
Thank you.
I've been on a lot of Zoom calls, so believe me, you're really good. And you look into the camera, you do a really good job with that. So
Thank you. Part of
yeah.
those classes I took.
Oh, you did great. You did great. I'm really happy for you and congratulations on your resilience and hanging in there and trying to stay positive. So a lot of good takeaways. I wrote down the name of that book too. So if you have the author, I'd love to have some.
Yeah, I'll add that in the chat so people can look that up.
I'd love to get that book because it kind of helps refocus things. Because all the things you're speaking to, I'm like, yeah, I've been there. Yeah, still there actually. So I'm trying.
Yeah, I think it's a continuous process and there's always bad days, right? Like there's days where it gets worse than others, but just trying is what matters.
Well, congratulations. And you did a great job.
Thank you.
All right. This is just a random thing, so I'm just going to pick people randomly. Next is Chris Hislop.
Okay, congratulations, Carly. That's awesome. So you said you were out of work about 7 weeks. Is that what you said?
Yeah, by the time I start the position, it'll be 7 weeks.
Okay. Okay. Um, so a couple of things you said that I do have one question, but a couple of things I just want to say amen to. Keeping a schedule. I totally agree with that. That's definitely helped me. I've been out of work 7 weeks this Wednesday, and being keeping a schedule has been huge. And like you said, kind of staying social and do and having goals to submit so many things, applications and trying to be social. So my one question, I wrote two of these down. So did you just like do did you do like a targeted search for AI tools, or did you already have some leads? I wrote down earnbetter.com and buildin.com. So like where did you, because anyways, I'm seeing the postings like on LinkedIn and Career Builder and ZipRecruiter, but it sounds like there's other tools out there that have jobs that you have to dig in a little deeper. So just tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I obviously have social media, and there would always be different ads for things, right? Because they always target you algorithm wise. And I would see that there would be different AI websites that would claim to build your career up or to help you find that perfect career, things of those natures. And so I was like, okay, there's got to be other stuff, but I'm going to ask like the trusty chat GPT because it knows me and it knows what I'm looking for. um, Previous to obviously looking for a job, it knew that I was going back for a master's. It knew that I was interested in X, Y, and Z. It knows me. And so when I asked it, I was like, hey, are there job sites out there that are AI focused that would help me either apply to jobs or find jobs that would be in the remote section of job searching? And so it gave me a list of like 5 to 10 different websites to check out. And I can put those, the ones that I used at the top, in the chat and stuff so people can look those up and stuff. But basically, what you do is you go into these websites, you give it your resume, and you put what you're looking for, what pay range, if there's any specific criteria, and then it will help you find jobs that may not actually be on LinkedIn or Indeed. Or I would arguably even say Google search because I don't trust Google search in general because it's always outdated. But and then there was another ad that talked about making sure you look within the last 24 hours and being one of the first posts within 24 hours. And so I would always set the filter to be okay, which ones have actively been looking and posted within the last like couple days at least, but trying to be one of the first people to apply to jobs. And so, yeah, those are just some of the prompts I gave it. I am more than happy to pull up that specific prompt if you want and put it in the chat. But yeah, it was very much just what are the resources out there to help me find a job faster, and knowing that I have a goal to get a job by this date, what tools will help me get that? And it helped a ton.
And then just um, if I wrote it down to, I think it's Sean Aker, but I might be wrong on the happiness advantage.
Yep.
That it is. Okay. Yeah, I've read that one before. That's awesome. And I just really liked how you use the tool of the reframing because once again, when you were talking about, the negative stuff, and if you reframed it, you had a different, perspective. And so anyways, the things that you said resonated. So thank you very much and congratulations.
Thank you. And you're welcome.
All right. Next up is Jason Trowbridge.
Okay, so one of the I really appreciate the websites that you've listed. There were a couple of them that I have not created profiles on, so it's always good to find out more of those. And it's kind of cool that you got them out of ChatGPT to find out. Um, One issue that I've been having, so I'm curious if you had this as well, is I have a number of resume applications for a variety of different jobs, and they're just all sitting in the applied state. And checking up with them, I get basically a canned response of, we will be evaluating these sometime in the future. Um, I guess it's, do I hold much hope or breath on any of those, or just keep going? Well, I mean, I'm going to keep going with any of the rest
Yeah,
with
I
more
mean, I
job
never paid attention
applications.
to those ones. Honestly, like if they didn't respond to me in a quick manner, if they
Yeah.
didn't call me back within a day or two, which obviously was the case for 98% of them, I don't really look back on it. I just keep moving forward because
Okay.
obviously we're wanting to get a job and we need to get a paycheck coming in. So you got to figure out who wants you and who wants you now. So
Yeah. Okay. So screw them.
yeah, basically. So, and I mean, if you can get like even a call back, or there's one company that I'm technically still interviewing with that I haven't told them I got a job yet. I
Yeah.
mostly just to kind of play the field. They sent an email with a Zoom link for me to find a time to do an interview. And I thought that was really weird because I would have normally missed that because it was
Hmm.
an email. So you never know. I guess just double check those emails and make sure they don't say, hey, schedule some time for an interview.
Yeah, no, I've been keeping an eye on those emails, and so I guess I appreciate the ones that come right out and say, "No, you're not who we're looking for." It
Yeah.
because they aren't leading me on at all.
Right. No, and that's rough, especially when you're just like, oh, I applied to 10 jobs and I got eight. No, thank yous.
I
So,
used to appreciate them, but having so many of them, I'm tired of them.
yeah, it's almost like I don't care that they give the courtesy of telling you that you're not moving forward or that you're not considered. I'm just like, I don't care at this point. Like, I just want to know if you want to interview me. Just
Yeah.
know. So, yeah.
All right. Since I heard another voice there, next up is Roger. But where did he go? Where is he? There he is. Or not Roger, excuse me, Mike.
All right, great stuff, Carly. Thank you very much.
Oh,
One question, two parts. Um, Based on your experience with this job search, what was the one smartest thing you did, and what was one thing that you think might have been a mistake that none of us should repeat?
ooh, that's a good question. The smartest thing I did was recognizing that AI was going to be the thing to help me get a job. The thing that I don't think was the smartest, that's a good question. Probably when I first started applying, I just applied to everything I could because the shock of just getting laid off, I hadn't taken the time to sit down and set those goals for myself. And so I was going to get job calls potentially from people that I didn't technically really want to work for, or for jobs that I didn't really want, especially pay wise, because I was just, okay, you got to get a job. That's just how we're kind of trained, I think, a little bit, is you got to have a job in order to pay the bills. Um, I think taking a couple days at the beginning to just sit down and write down the goals of, okay, these are the parameters I have for what I need. This is what my life looks like and what I would appreciate having as a job, and then doing your job search based off of that, not just
So
applying.
not starting with a goal would be the mistake, huh?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's let's go to somebody that maybe you worked with. I don't know if you worked with them or not, but they're from the same company, I believe. We'll start with Matt Reeder. I think he came in a little bit partway through it, but Matt, I don't know if you guys know each other. You work for the same company, I believe. Matt, did you work for Maverick or Come and Go?
Yes, I worked for Maverick in the site development team.
Ah,
Carly,
construction.
what department were you working with at
I was in
Maverick?
operations under
Okay.
Marty. So,
Yeah, the joys of being part of a company that is acquiring another company. There's workforce reductions, redundancies. But anyways, congrats on getting a new job and on to bigger and better places. I really appreciate your story and the information you gave. A couple takeaways for me that I need to utilize for my future interviews and job search is setting non-negotiables for myself. I think I was in the same spot of immediately like, let's like a shotgun apply for everything. which, yeah, I've gotten some callbacks and interviews for things that, oh, I actually don't want to take this. So I'm actually pending reply on whether or not they make an offer or not. So I'm happy about that. It's good practice and experience. I appreciate your questions on trying to understand the culture, asking, what frustrations are you experiencing? Kind of give some highlights of your culture. I plan on utilizing some of those questions in my upcoming interview. So overall, really appreciate your insight and feedback. And again, congratulations. Um, and on to using Holiday or a different convenience store.
Right. Well, I laughed with my husband because I went from gas to now car insurance. So I was like, I
Hey,
apparently can't leave the automotive industry for some reason. But
cars are still going to be around for quite a while, so I think
depends on
you're
the
in a good
car,
spot.
though. At least we're out of gasoline.
Yeah.
Next step, working for a junkyard.
Oh,
There you go.
let's hope not. No, I think at least for Matt, like if there's anything I can think of based off what you said, thank you first off. But yeah, culture questions were a big thing because as I'm sure you're well aware, just in your and I mean obviously we are in different departments, different spheres, but the culture really took a shot towards the end
Totally.
there. And
Mhm.
so one of the things that my husband and I agreed on is we needed to make sure that whatever I went to next had better culture or at least better safeguards in place to protect their culture because that was very sad to see how many people were affected by that and how many people are now scared about losing their jobs at that company. So,
Yeah, it's somewhat of a relief to stop kind of feeling like you're on eggshells or thin ice just because of the situation. So, at least that part has been cut out. Um, so yeah. Well, again, congratulations and
thanks.
good luck in your future endeavors.
Thank you. Good luck for you. And I
Thank
hope you
you.
find something quickly. I'm sure you will. So,
Thank you. Yeah, I've got something lined up for a second interview this week. So yeah,
hey,
wish me luck.
if you can get to the second interview, you're doing well better than others. So, you got this.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up is somebody else from the company, but from one of the companies they acquired, and that's Gene.
Yep.
I don't know if
And
you guys
Carly,
know each other or not. I know it's a big company.
I kind of feel like Carly, we might have crossed paths at
I think we
one or
had a
two
couple
points there.
emails to each other. So,
Yeah, I was on the probably related to the Smart Safes project.
yes, that's what it was.
So hi.
Hi. It's good to put a name to
No,
a face.
I think it was only on that. But anyway, so I it took me a while to figure out who you were, but I did.
You're good.
Anyway, first of all, I just want to echo some of the same things you all are saying, and not to dwell on it, but when you say about culture and that sort of thing, Carly, you were with Maverick before, right?
I was, yeah.
Okay. So I just want to totally echo that from someone who was with Come and Go before Maverick about the culture change and how much better it was before Maverick acquired us. So
Yeah.
I just want to go ahead and air a quick sour grape there. But anyway,
No, yeah, no, you're good. That was one of my focuses before getting laid off, obviously, was I wanted to understand the people they were acquiring. And I
yeah,
actually had taken a lot of time to build that relationship with like Hannah Lytle, with
yeah.
Kara Clark, people like that, and just really understanding your guys' side. And if it's been anything similar to what I've experienced with this layoff, for those that have been laid off before from Come and Go, I am
Mm.
so sorry. That was not okay and not fair. And so,
Oh, I guess one thing I'll just quickly say about myself is that I've been through this. It's almost like I mean, not to make jokes about it too much, but it's almost like a staple of my career being downsized, frankly. So just here I am again, frankly. But anyway,
fair enough. But
now
still,
I'm getting old enough that it can only happen so many more times. But anyway,
no more.
so yeah. Anyway, so I kind of like a couple of people said. I mean, it was kind of a light bulb for me about AI and Chat GPT. I mean, I will admit that I mean, who's not somewhat familiar with them at this point, but I'm not like a regular user of them at this point. And so, if you're gonna, put those websites on there and that sort of thing, that'll be a good tactic that I hadn't even, just to be honest here, I hadn't even really considered at this point yet.
Yeah.
So that'll I think that'll be helpful for me. Um, I'm not sure what real questions I have. I guess the only other thing I was going to say is since I'm kind of going through the same timeline as you are, I think you can give yourself even more credit than that. You've only been out of work for like 3 weeks, really, because you got
True.
paid through because you got paid through April 1st. So
Another positive
so good
mindset I
job,
haven't
good
kept in
job.
place. Thank you.
Yeah. But no, I mean that was just the main thing for me. Again, I don't think I really appreciate your presentation. I thought it was very good, and I think that AI and Chat GPT portion will be helpful for me. So I think
Yeah.
that's about it for me. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Gene.
Yep.
Next up is Roger Minnick.
Well, hi, Carly. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's pretty good time frame turnaround to get a job. It's really good. I'm interested in some of the links you're going to post up here before that you got off of AI for help finding work. This you talked about clicking on a link to schedule an interview. I just did one of those at the top of about 30 minutes ago, actually.
Nice.
So I always believe is never turn down an interview, no matter whether you want the job or not, because it's always good experience to go out there. You always learn something from an interview. Plus, you never know what it may lead to as well. So,
It's true.
so
Yeah,
I
I
so
agree.
I hope you are happy what you do, and congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. Next up is, hold on here, is Justin. I don't think I hit Justin yet.
Hey, so congratulations. Thanks for those links. What was this second one you had? It was I know ZipRecruiter, but there was built something or other.
Built in,
Built in.
builtin.com. And like I said, I'll put them all in the chat so you guys can look at them and stuff as well. But that one was good. There's even a website that I use that's for startups, if anyone's interested in those. I applied to a few of those. That's probably where I actually found this job now that I think about it, which it's not a startup, but hey, it's another place to look. So
There's
Yes,
another
please.
Um, don't have really much questions other than congratulations.
thank you.
Next up is William.
All right. Well, first of all, congratulations. It's kind of nice to hop into something like this, my first time, and hearing a success story. um, I love the fact that you used AI. I've been tinkering with AI for the last couple of months myself. I never even thought to bounce off job ideas off of it, though. So that's kind of enlightening to see some of the stuff that it can pull on there. So thank you for sharing that. I actually might try going down that route myself. Made notes of the websites you mentioned there, since I'm trying to get as much information as possible. I like the idea of the reframe your thinking, the book you were talking about. I had recently finished a book that was given to me by another friend from Scott Adams called Reframe Your Brain. And it's the same idea, of looking at situations differently. And I'm trying to do that myself as well, because I started really ramping up doing applications again. I think it was beginning of February. And so I'm starting to see that, throwing out, nothing's coming back. So it's good to hear that you put out a lot and it's, and 98% of it kind of went, away, and not really focus on those, keep moving on. I like the idea of setting goals. I like the fact that you set a goal on, I want to have a job by this date. I've done something similar. I'm hoping to have something by the end of May. So I've got that goal in there. Creating a schedule, that's actually kind of enlightening. I won't lie, since I haven't, worked for a bit. I don't really have a set schedule, so I might have to bring that in. So thank you for sharing that as well. And then since I'm going to be interviewing a lot more going forward soon, the asking detailed questions, that was very insightful on there. Is there a favorite question you'd like to ask your interviewers?
That's a good question. Luckily, I have my notes like right here of all the. I like to take notes because writing down helps me remember things a lot better. And so every interview I did, I wrote down like my questions, and then I would put like them in different categories and organize the details so that I can know where I was asking.
Okay.
But I think my best question that I asked was in my interview Friday, where I was like, "What do you do to influence the culture?" Because then you can see what their management style is and what they focus on. I think that helps because with this acquisition that Maverick had, I had two different supervisors and they were drastically different. And I think knowing, and kind of like what Roger said with doing interviews, because you always learn something or you get better at something, whether it's the interview questions or recognizing different things, the way people say it, I think it's helpful to know what kind of manager you're going to be getting by asking those questions and how they focus.
Yeah, I can see that. I was with Office Depot and Office Max long enough that I went through their merger there and the change of culture. So that's kind of important as well, because I saw something similar with Office Depot where, a couple years after the transition, it was definitely a different company than what it was when I was under. One other question for you. When you're preparing for your interviews, since you like to ask questions, which I'm trying to get better at in the interview process, what would you do to prepare? Would you like hop on the company's website, try to learn about it? Or did you just have a set of questions that you normally stuck with a few, sprinkled in to be unique?
Yeah, those are really good questions. I didn't do specific questions by company, but I did do a ton of research beforehand. So
Okay.
as soon as I got scheduled an interview, I researched, okay, which position did I apply for? What did I actually do? And then I learned about the company. I looked at Glassdoor to kind of see what their culture was like, what it seemed to be like, their salary ranges. And then if I knew who I was interviewing with, I would try and stalk them on LinkedIn. And I would try and kind of see, okay, what are their backgrounds? What's their education? Have they been at this job for a while? Things like that. And so just kind of understanding where their mentality might be. And then when I ask those questions, understanding it obviously helps understanding when they give their answers, because you're like, okay, I can see why you would think that.
Yeah. Sweet. Awesome. Well, congrats again. And that's all the questions I had for you.
Cool. Yeah. Good luck.
Thank you.
Next up is Jason. Oh, what'd I do? I lost her. There we go.
There we go.
Well, good morning, Carly. Yeah, your presentation was great. I don't know, it doesn't seem like you're bad at public speaking. I think I am. You said that ChatGPT knew you already. What were you using it for before you started doing job search? Because it sounded like you were anticipating trouble at work just because of the PIP and because you were working on your resume. But was it job related or?
Yes and no. And surprisingly, it wasn't entirely because I thought I was going to lose my job. It literally was just me. I'd been in the position for longer than anyone else had been in that position. I guess the average was like a year if they were lucky, and I had been there for almost 3. So it was just like, okay, it's time to move on and try and see if there's other places that I can go and build up my career. In terms of ChatGPT, I had started to research at the beginning of the year about going into a master's program and continuing my education. And so I was asking it questions related to what's the difference between this degree and this degree, knowing that I'm a mom, knowing that I have an interest in this, like what would this do? You're just basically priming ChatGPT with different things that you're looking at. So, for example, New Year's, you usually try and set goals for the year. I was like, hey, how can I improve my nutrition? How can I lose a few extra pounds. How can I do this? And it kind of learns how you are and what you're thinking. So it knows kind of where you're going to go with your next question. So
Right.
when it came to then job searching, it was like, hey, she's going to want more flexibility and she's going to want something that probably has a reputation for a good culture because of this layoff. She wants something quick. These are websites that usually have quick response times, things like that.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I guess I wasn't sure that it remembers that across different sessions and stuff. Um, but yeah, so good luck out there, and I hope it's good.
thank you. Yeah.
All right. I had two people come in very late, but I don't think they were here for this, and that's Dallas and Brad. Were you here for any of that, or did you come in at the very end?
I missed the presentation myself, but I've picked up quite a bit just from hearing everybody else's questions.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Dallas.
Same thing for me. I came in just as the question started.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, I actually have something to say, so that doesn't happen very often. It was a delight when we first connected. I mean, it's like I met a student of job seeking, and that's Carly. And I think after we end this recording, where we think we should probably go, and I like the flexibility, but I learned two sites from her, and that was the Earn Better and the built in. And so Carly, thank you for I'm always learning. And I love the fact that you used AI. There was a person about the time that AI came out in 23. I think it was about then when it came out. His name was Kyle Lyons, and he said something that resonated with what you said today. And he said, um, companies are using AI to screen me out. So I'm going to learn how to use AI to screen myself back in. And that's what you did. So um, I I just think that, I'm just glad that you didn't have to suffer very long. I think this can be suffering for many of us, and I think it is a roller coaster. And I think you gave just a lot of great things today. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Steve. And yeah, when we first met, I was like, I just need to learn any and everything I can before I get a job. Steve was like, I don't know how much I can teach you, but okay. And he taught me a lot. So thank you.
Well, you're welcome. Um, any last things you want to add before we end the recording?
I don't think so. Good luck with everything. Set those goals, set the schedule, keep a positive mindset. You guys got this. And ChatGPT is everything that you make it to be. So if you want it to help you out, it can. So you just have to ask the right questions.
Okay. Big round of applause for Carly. Okay.